In this video, we're going to take a close look at the 2024 presidential election between the current Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris, and the former President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. As many of you know, a debate took place last night between the vice presidential candidates, J.D. Vance and Tim Walz. And as a result of that debate, a lot of polls have updated overnight. They've come throughout the course of the day. Those of you that watched it saw a very composed, very confident, very vice presidential looking J.D. Vance. You also saw a very wobbly, very confused, lots of multiple word salads and a little bit loss of thought with Tim Walz. That did not help the Harris-Walz ticket at all last night. She's already been struggling to maintain her post-convention momentum. But we're going to look at this poll. You're going to see definitely some changes that have taken place over the last couple of weeks. Let's go up really quickly to the favorable and unfavorable rating. This is very important. As many of you know, Trump has never really had a positive spread in the favorable, unfavorable. He did win in 2016, being very close in 2020. He's a very polarizing figure, obviously. But look at what's taken place right here. His unfavorable to favorable rating is now only 8 percentage points apart. You go back and look. We're going to go back into August, July, even in June, 11 points. You want to go back into late last year, it was about 16, 17 points. But since the convention, and that's kind of odd, Harris did not get a good bump after the convention. She got a favorable move in the polls after July 21st when Biden pulled out. But look right now, Trump's unfavorable rating is almost at an all-time low. If we go up and take a look at Vice President Harris's favorable, unfavorable rating, she is just now at 0.3% to the positive side. She has nosedived. Let's look at this. She was at 16% at one time, She was at 16% right here and just been a steady drop over the last couple of months. Her honeymoon is over. Let's take a look and see how this has affected the polling. We're going to go to November 5th, 2024. We're going to call the states as the polling data suggests a winner or a loser on election night. We're going to go right to the East Coast. Vice President Harris will take the popular vote in Maine. Maine and Nebraska, as many of you know, and those that you don't know, split their electoral college votes between two districts and the popular vote. The popular vote will go to Vice President Harris. She'll collect 2 electoral college votes. She'll also win outlying district. Trump, who was behind in his district too in the previous polls, has now regained his status there in that district in Maine. He'll collect that 1 electoral college vote. And we see that Harris has a very small lead in the early stages of the East Coast poll closing. She will take Vermont. She'll take the most liberal state in the United States of America, home to Bernie Sanders, New Hampshire. She's going to take Massachusetts by a large amount. You get to Rhode Island and Connecticut. Let's go down here to the District of Columbia, Maryland. Those are easy takes for her. And then she's going to win New Jersey, but not by the margin that you would think. In the early stages of the spring, Trump actually was doing very well in New Jersey when Biden was still in the race. That's now moved into the more favorable hands for the Democratic Party and Vice President Harris. New York, very interesting story. Harris is going to win New York, it looks like, but this is a state that Democratic presidential candidates, whether it's Clinton, whether it was President Barack Obama, Joe Biden, won this state by 25 points, 27 points. The most current polls have Harris up by about 13 to 15 points. One poll has it actually around 12%. It's going to be very interesting. She has to win New York by the normal 25% margin. If she's down in the 15% range in New York, that's going to transcend into some problems in some of these other swing states that we're going to discuss later. She has to maintain that Democratic base in New York, and that is a 25% clip for her. Again, if she doesn't get there, this is going to forecast some problems further along the way for her. Virginia, she should win Virginia. Again, that was a close race until President Biden pulled out. But here again, she should win Virginia. Let's go down to some of the easy calls in the early part of the evening for former President Trump. He is going to take Indiana very easily. He's going to take Kentucky very easily. He's going to take West Virginia very easy. Very red state. South Carolina is going to be red. Tennessee is going to be dark, dark red. Alabama, red. Mississippi will go to Trump. Louisiana, Arkansas, Missouri, this is all Trump country. Iowa will go to Trump. He's won that in 2016, increased that margin in 2020, and is looking very, very good in the Midwest, in Iowa, Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana. Let's go to the East Coast here real quick. Florida used to be a bellwether state. It was a state that you had to win the presidential election, and you still do, but it's not even an option for the Democrats to consider. 2016, Hillary Clinton was projected to win this state by over 5 percentage points. We know what happened then. 2020, Trump took Florida again. Earlier in the spring, some of the polling suggested that that Biden was within 3 to 5 points. And the Democrats did spend some money down there. Vice President Harris has done some early election stops down there, some campaign stops, but she's sort of seen the handwriting on the wall and sort of staying out of Florida now. That is going to go to Trump by at least 5 to 7 points. So that would be an easy call. Ohio will go to Trump by double digits. We're early in the evening in the presidential election. Trump's up 136 to 100. Very confident in these calls. Very, very confident. Minnesota will go to Vice President Harris. However, this is polling within 5%, 5.5% now. This is a state that she should win by 7, 8, maybe even 10%. There's some dynamics taking place. The political science of things are being looked at, but this could be very interesting for Harris come election night. She should take these 10 electoral college votes, but Trump over the last month has really started to make some inroads, but we're going to give it to the Harris campaign at the moment. Let's jump over here to Trump country. North Dakota will go red. South Dakota's 3 electoral votes will go to Trump. Nebraska, let's take a look down here. Nebraska is again one of the two states in the union that split their electoral college votes. The popular vote will give 2 electoral college votes to former President Trump. He will also win the outer districts, but the second district is polling a little bit stronger. It was close, but recent polls show Vice President Harris up by about 8 points. So she should secure that district that's really been geared around the Omaha area. She should pull that. Kansas will go to Trump. Oklahoma, very dark red, will go to former President Trump. Texas was a state that the Democrats in 2016 thought they had a shot. Actually, Clinton was polling very, very well in 2016. Trump took that state very comfortably. 2020, the same thing. The Biden campaign and the DNC thought that this was a state that they could snatch away. Senatorial candidate Beto O'Rourke was very popular, but he turned around and lost that campaign. Trump secured those 40 electoral college votes. He's going to do the same thing again. Earlier this year, the DNC and the Biden campaign had some early polling data that showed them within 3 or 4 points That's just not going to happen. Texas is going to be red by 5 to 8 points. And remember, Texas gained an extra electoral college vote along with Florida this year due to the population flight from California, the the exodus from states like Pennsylvania, New York lost an electoral college vote. These went down to Florida, went to Texas. So Trump will win Texas, giving him a 199 to 111 lead on the evening of November 5th, 2022. Montana is Trump country, and it will go to him. Now, there's a really interesting scene playing out in Montana. John Tester, the Democrat senator, very, 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 very popular there, done very well in a very red state. He is now behind by about 6 percentage points to the Republican senatorial candidate, Tim Sheehy. There's not enough time for Tester to catch this. This state is going to flip a Senate seat from the Democratic side to the Republican side, as is West Virginia. West Virginia is a democratically held state by a very, very popular and a very respected on both sides of the aisle Senator Joe Manchin. Joe Manchin over the last couple of years has begun to separate himself and distance himself from the Democratic Party and the Biden administration specifically. He is now retiring, and that seat is being challenged by the former Republican governor of West Virginia, Justice. Very popular former governor. They're not even taking polls in this state because he's up by over 30 points. So West Virginia, the Democrats will lose a Senate seat in West Virginia. They will lose a Senate seat in Montana. The Republicans will flip the Senate by at least 51 to 49. Ohio's tightened up on the Senate side in that Senate race between Brown and Moreno. Moreno's now within 4 points, as is Rogers versus Slotkin in Michigan. We'll get to that in a little bit. You're going to see the Republicans take the Senate by at least 51 to 49, but there's a possibility that this thing could go 53 to 47. We'll see how that plays out. Wyoming is very red. That will go to former President Trump. We now see a 206 to 111. Idaho's going to go red. Utah's going to go red. And now we're off to a very long evening. Let's finish up the West Coast here, what we know we can call when those polls close. Washington will go to Vice President Harris very, very quickly. Oregon will as well, but not by double digits. And remember, Oregon is a mail-in state, a mail-in ballot only. 100% of the ballots in Oregon are mailed in, but they start that counting process very early in the morning on the 5th. California, that's going to be a no-brainer. Very, 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 very liberal state, California. 54 of those electoral college votes will go to Vice President Harris, and along with Hawaii, Trump should easily take Alaska, although some polls have it within 5 or 6 points. Nevertheless, there's not enough Democratic base up there to flip Alaska to blue just yet. Let's go over here to Colorado. Colorado is moving very, very far to the left of center. Matter of fact, Harris is polling over 10% in many of these polls in the state of Colorado. New Mexico, very interesting. New Mexico is moving a little closer to center over the last few elections. However, it will still go blue for Vice President Harris. But watch New Mexico over the next 4 to 8 years. It really is moving close to center. And believe it or not, a lot of it has to do with the Hispanic population there. You have a lot of Hispanics who are not in favor of these open border policies and this unlimited mass illegal immigration movement as it affects that state's economy, their safety and a lot of other factors. So New Mexico is an interesting state to watch over the next 2 to 3 presidential election cycles. Now we're going to get into the interesting facets of what's going to take place on the evening of November 5th, 2024. Let's take a look at Nevada. I want to go up and take a look at the current polling in Nevada. If you'll take a look, Vice President Harris has maintained a fairly steady lead. It's bounced back and forth. Trump had this. He was in charge of things here. You see, Biden withdrew on the 21st of July. Trump maintained a lead, and then he continued to maintain a lead. Not sure where the dynamics changed, but Harris chipped away at that lead, and she actually gained. And then you're going to see it tightened up a little bit. And now she sort of it's only 1%. We're going to see how that plays out. But she's doing very well. She's maintaining that lead. Trump has some policies that are very, very well liked and by the casino workers with the no tax on tips. There's a blue collar presence out there as well. They tend to lean towards President Trump, but Harris is still holding that. And as it stands right now, got to run with the poll on this. Nevada is going to be blue as it stands today. Let's go into Arizona. Arizona, Trump won Arizona in 2016. Biden barely won Arizona in 2020. It took a record turnout of the registered voters in that state. It took a record turnout for Biden to win it by a few thousand votes. Trump has been in command of this all year. He's been in command. We saw in August, not sure what happened here, but Harris jumped up in the lead. Now, we have a couple of polls that have been coming in. They're very far off. Everybody has this 1-2%. There's a couple of polls that have 3%. But we've seen the Morning Consult, Bloomberg Morning Consult, have these polls that are 5, 7, and 8% for Harris. We're not sure where they're getting their information from, who they're polling, where they're polling in the state. But it is an anomaly, and we feel it is totally throwing off the real numbers here. Trump has this lead of 1.7%. He won it in 16. Had it not been for a record turnout in 2020 for Biden, Trump would have won this state again. And as it stands right now, if you take a look at just the analytical and the data coming in, Trump is going to pull out Arizona 230 to 210 right now. We're going to go down here and take a look at Georgia. Georgia, 2016, Trump won Georgia. 2020, Biden won Georgia. Biden won Georgia by less than 15,000 votes. It was very, almost a surreal experience. As the evening progressed, Trump was up by thousands upon thousands of votes in Georgia that night. And then some of the outlying counties, I believe in Savannah and a couple other areas, municipalities and districts out in that area, just had some crazy numbers that came in overnight, and it put Biden over by just a few thousand votes. This has been back and forth. Trump had a massive lead. I mean, he was running away with this thing, and when Biden removed himself from the process, Harris began to gain some momentum. She chipped away, but something has happened here. She had a really negative dip in her polling data right there. She has bumped up a little bit, but Trump has bumped up as well. Some of this could also be the Kennedy factor. Kennedy's voters are now moving towards Trump at the request of Kennedy. And so this is why when Harris seems to get a little bump up, Trump gets the same bump up, but he is now up about 1.5 points, and he's holding that ground. Georgia's going to go to Trump. North Carolina is going to play a huge role in the 2024 election. Trump had a commanding lead throughout the process. Post-Biden withdrawing from the presidential campaign, Harris chipped away and chipped away and chipped away, and at one point, she was within a percentage point, 1/10 of a percentage point. They're both making some progress here. You see both of their numbers are increasing, but Trump is keeping ahead of her by about 0.5 to 1%. Trump won this in 2016. He won it again in 2020. Now there is a lieutenant governor there, Robinson, who has been very much ingrained in the Trump campaign. But as many of you know, a couple weeks ago, he is running for the governor of North Carolina. There's a big controversy. There's a very scandalous controversy, a very scandalous story that has been broken by CNN over this gubernatorial candidate. We saw it affect Trump just a little bit right up in here. It may have, but people have now put that behind them. They're not voting for the governor of North Carolina. They're not voting for Robinson. They're voting for Trump. And Trump is now starting to get his traction back again. And, as 2016 proved and 2020, regardless of how powerful the Democratic machine is and that honeymoon effect, that excitement over Vice President Kamala Harris, she's really starting to lose. That shine is coming off. She's lost that luster, and Trump is now beginning to make major inroads. Trump will win North Carolina. He is now only 8 electoral college votes away from the presidency. Now, I want to go to Illinois. That's a no-brainer. That's going to be blue. But I want to go over something with you. Illinois, Harris should win this state by about 17 points easily. 17 to 20 points. She's polling about 12 to 14 points. Trump is not going to win Illinois. But Trump is going to have a significant turnout among the African American males. Black males are going to turn out in Illinois, and they're going to turn out for Trump. And they're going to keep this thing at about 10 to 12%. Watch, mark my words. It will go to Harris. It will be blue. It will put her at 229 electoral college votes. But because of the black vote, black males especially, that are gearing up and lining up behind the former president, Donald J. Trump, they resonate with his message. They resonate with his persona. He's digging deep. He's going to have a record number of black votes in this election. Donald Trump will have the largest percentage of black votes in the history of the Republican presidential election process. And so we'll see how this plays out. Now, we're going to go into the last 3 states. This is going to determine who the president is going to be. Wisconsin, Trump won that in 2016. Biden barely won it. He narrowly took Wisconsin. Again, if you looked at one of my video that I posted last week, I broke down each state and the registered voter turnout in those swing states. And it's just incredible to see how many of these states had 60, 70% of the registered voters turn out. States love it when 40, 50% turn out. Those are big numbers. Kamala Harris will have to turn out those exact type of numbers in 2024. Trump is moving. He's gaining momentum. We can see right here. He's gaining the momentum. Both have flatlined a little bit here, but Trump is now within 8 percentage points, 0.8 percentage points. Trump will take Wisconsin. Let's go to Michigan. Michigan has been a interesting state throughout this election process. Let's go all the way back over here. It's just been back and forth, even between Biden and Trump, just various things. But Trump began to separate himself early in late last year, and we're going to get up in here into the early part of this year. Trump was holding about a 3.5 to 4% lead. Biden closed that gap. Then there was a major drop-off with both candidates as far as favorability. Post-Biden, though, Harris jumped in the lead, and she really began to run with this. But now we're seeing a tightening of this race again. She's up 1.3 percentage points, and this is across all polls. What we're looking at here is I'm using Real Clear Politics. They use a great aggregate number of polls, and they get their averages from that. They try to eliminate the nonsense polls, which would have Trump up by 7 or Harris up by 7. That would make no sense. But Trump is closing the gap. And we're seeing his message resonate very, very well now with the auto industry, with the black voters in that state as well. Black males resonate with Trump. It's going to be so close to call, but Trump will win the state of Michigan. This will put him over the top at 287. Pennsylvania is going to be a big player. If for some reason Trump cannot hold hold Michigan, or he cannot hold Wisconsin, it's going to boil down to this. And look at this. Look at this back and forth. It was Biden, it was Trump, and then we see in the summer Trump had a fairly large lead. Biden was just losing his path, his way. He withdrew. And in the initial stages, Trump was able to hold off Harris, but she has now made up a lot of ground. But again, it's just back and forth. It's back and forth, back and forth. It is a tie right now. In order for Vice President Kamala Harris to win Pennsylvania, she needs to be polling plus 3.5%, plus 4.5%. The electorate in Pennsylvania, the registered voters, especially the non-4-year degreed white voting electorate, registered voters of Pennsylvania, it's plus 40%. Those are voters that do not answer polls. They do not pick up the phone and answer questions. They don't answer the pollsters that are sitting outside the grocery store asking questions. They vote. They don't mail in vote. They walk to the poll. They drive to the poll. Way out in the rural countries, they go to the poll in person, pull that lever. That's how they cast their vote. It's such an undercounted, underrepresented number of the voting populace that these pollsters don't get it. They don't count these. Trump will win this state. He could win it in excess of 100,000 votes. We're going to take a look at that. Let's go back over here. Trump wins those 19 electoral college votes. Donald Trump takes Pennsylvania in the early hours of the morning, November 6, 2024. It consolidates his victory to 306 electoral college votes to Vice President Kamala Harris's 232. Donald Trump regains the presidency, is the 47th president of the United States of America. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like and also hit that subscribe button. You'll get first alerts on our new videos that we're releasing. You'll also be able to join us, and I encourage you to join me on election night, November 5th, 2024, as I have a live stream and will cover the 2024 presidential election.